So when we think about emotional intelligence, there's a lot of authors that are out there today. My personal favorite is Adele Lynn. A lot of people, when they hear emotional intelligence as a topic, they start to think about Travis Bradberry. He's probably the person that's most known when it comes to this topic. But I love Adele Lynn. And one of the reasons I gravitate toward Adele Lynn more is because usually an EQ model that's presented by the more popular and the more famous authors on the subject, they usually have four elements that their EQ models revolve around. Adele Lynn has five. And I found her presentations to be more on the practical side, easier to implement, easier to relate to. And so these are the five elements that she presents. Number one, self-awareness and self-control. Everybody talks about self-awareness. And this is defined as the ability to fully understand yourself and then to use what you've deduced in your own analysis and examination of self to manage your emotions in a productive manner. So one of the key things you have to know about EQ is that at its foundation, no matter whose model you like to gravitate toward, it's about self-awareness. Out of that self-awareness is going to come the self-control. So I love the fact that that's stressed, and this is important to know. If you don't know yourself, or the less you know yourself, the less EQ you are, in short. Number two, and this is the one we hear all the time, UX folks, we always hear how important empathy is to doing UX work. What we don't often hear is that empathy is a key factor as it pertains to emotional intelligence. What is empathy? You hear a lot of different definitions. I even hear people now trying to say that we should stop focusing on empathy altogether. That's not true. It's not good. It's not sound. And even if some of the proponents, some of the people who are saying that we should step away from empathy, you could step away from empathy. I love taking other people's viewpoints and examining as if what they're saying is trustworthy, and then looking at it. If you did embrace that, what would happen? If you did embrace that, where would you end up? And so if you did embrace that and pull empathy out of your UX work, it's still here in EQ. So the bottom line is you're not going to get away from empathy. You're not going to get away from that at all. Adele Lynn defines empathy as the ability to understand the perspectives of others. And that's one of the reasons why I love it. And I think that this is a very grounded, practical, and realistic view of empathy. A lot of times you'll hear people, when they talk about empathy, they'll talk about putting yourself in someone else's shoes. That's a little on the short-sighted side. And that's why there's some of the critics that say that we shouldn't embrace empathy at all. So, but the ability to understand the perspectives of other people, all the values off the charts. We have to understand things from someone else's perspective. And that's why personas work for us. That's why all these things are so important. That's why, yeah, I mean, you can't get away from empathy. And the more emotionally intelligent you are, the more empathetic you can be. We strive to understand things from the perspectives of others. And so this is critical. The third one is social expertness. And now social expertness is defined by Adele Lynn as the ability to build genuine relationships, and not just genuine relationships, but bonds. The ability to integrate yourself into someone else's life and to allow them to do the same with you. This is important. And then to have the ability to express, to demonstrate your care, your concern, and even conflict. Conflict is not always a bad thing. We don't have to agree on everything. We don't have to do everything the same way. I mean, for God's sake, there's 100 different ways to design anything at almost any given time. So conflict, if we embrace conflict, not only is it something that is reflective of having sound emotional intelligence, it's also a key to innovating. It's a key to diversity. And so we have to be able to embrace the fact that somebody else has a different viewpoint. Somebody else is looking at this. They have a different perspective. Somebody else is looking at this from another angle, and embrace it and not take it personally or take it as a threat. These things are all key when it comes to emotional intelligence. The fourth one on this list is personal influence. Personal influence has to do with the ability to positively lead and inspire people as well as yourself to be able to make yourself do the right thing or do the appropriate thing at almost any given time, as well as the ability to influence other people. And I'm going to throw a curveball in here, influence people without being manipulative. That is the emotionally intelligent way to proceed. Some people influence, but they're manipulative, they're controlling. That's not emotionally intelligent. That's something completely different, and you'll see that in a bit. And then last on this list has to do with the mastery of purpose and vision. And Adele Lynn defines this as the ability to bring authenticity to one's life and live out one's intentions and value. Authenticity is fantastic. That means that the people who are part of the fake it till you make it crowd, that would be contrary to this particular tenet of emotional intelligence. You have to be authentic. You have to be authentic to yourself. You have to be authentic in pursuing what you're looking for in your life. You have to be authentic in what you're pursuing and what you're trying to represent with your team. Being authentic is key. And those are also key to mastering the purpose and vision of what you set out to do and tie it into your intentions and your values.